One day I'm gonna be everything I wanna be. I don't let it get the most of me. One day I'm gonna be free. I wanna be everything I'm gonna be. My future right in front of me. One day I'm gonna be free. I wanna be free. Then let me be. From the depths of darkness, a voice emerges. A host with a fire burning in his soul. With a heart of steel and a spirit unbroken. He rides on two wheels ready to claim his throne. Amidst the chaos and the thunderous roar, insane wheels rise as a force to be reckoned with. Fueled by the power that only metal can bestow. He takes his stand, refusing to submit. Insane wheels hear his battle cry. A metal mayhem that will never die. With engines roaring, he paves his way. A legend in the making, day by day.
Wow. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's a beautiful, thirsty Thursday morning. Great to see everyone in the chat, man. Always appreciate all you legends. We got a big morning ahead of us, as we always seem to have. We have some new U.S. Strikes on Iran, that over there in southern Iran, actually, kind of in the same area, a little bit of the same area of the last, attack from the United States. So we're going to be covering that. It's regarding, believe it or not, 4 drones, one-way drones that were launched, and they were reporting originally that they were headed towards not only cargo vessels that are U.S. flagged out there, but for a Navy ship as well. Well, the reports after, pretty much 10 minutes after were saying, well, now they were leaving out the Navy ship part. They were just putting cargo ships. So anyways, we're going to be discussing that this morning. And then White House briefing is going to be happening today. I'm not sure if we're actually going to be able to catch that, but at least you guys know that it's going to be happening probably right around the time I end. And then, of course, global updates. So let me go ahead and give you guys a chronological breakdown of what we're going to be discussing this morning. Deadly implosion. We have an update from that whole thing up there in Washington. There was another tank that imploded, and there was a lot of people missing. And so the last numbers we gave you guys was 1 dead and 9 missing. And now the update is now 2 dead and 9 missing. So we've got terrible news on that front. To start off the morning, unfortunately. And then we have Cuban official accuses Rubio of lying about national security threats. I don't know about that bullshit. I think, honestly, I think Cuba's full of cap.
Stop the cap.
Anyways, we got U.S. DOJ sues UCLA over alleged anti-Semitic educational environment. What the fuck does that mean? What is going on with this? It says on Tuesday, the U.S. Department of Justice Civil Rights Division filed a lawsuit against the University of California, Los Angeles, alleging it tolerated a hostile educational environment for Jewish and Israeli students. That's totally interesting. I wonder what was happening specific. What is the accusation? Anyways, police SWAT shut down a social club for illegal gambling. Over there in Texas, authorities in West Houston, Texas, executed a search warrant at Lucky J Social Club over illegal gambling allegations. Approximately 80 to 90 people were in the club when the SWAT team entered the business. Police stated 4 to 5 people were taken into custody. It's unclear what the people taken into custody are being charged with at this time. According to Houston police, over the past several months, authorities received complaints from people in the area that there was illegal gambling and other activities going on at a business. Damn, this looks like they got caught. All right, and then we're going to be talking about the Strait of Hormuz over there. Southern Iran in particular, this last strike. U.S. intercepts 4 Iranian drones near Strait of Hormuz. And so this comes out just 4 hours ago. This is one of the latest updates on this. The U.S. military said it intercepted and shot down 4 Iranian one-way attack drones and struck an Iranian ground control station in Bandar Abbas, which is the island. I'll show you guys here in a little bit. That was preparing to launch a 5th drone. The developments come as tensions continue to rise between U.S. and Iran, with President Donald Trump addressing the escalating conflict during a cabinet meeting Wednesday at the White House, which was yesterday, obviously. And then we have a report. U.S. will need years to replenish weapons used in Iran. This is coming out just 3 hours ago. It says U.S. military contractors need at least 3 years to replenish stockpiles of 3 key weapon systems used heavily in the Iran war, according to an analysis released Wednesday, adding to concerns that American forces would have limited firepower in any future conflict with China. Very interesting. And Patriot missiles is one of the things that they're going to be talking about, the lack of, and it takes forever to build. And we weren't even supposed to have any more made until like 2030 or something like that. So we've used up a lot of our stockpile. Anyways, U.S. to create Ebola facility for infected Americans. This coming out an hour ago. The U.S. is in discussions with Kenya about opening a facility to quarantine American citizens exposed to the Ebola outbreak centered in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. According to the U.S., according to 2 U.S. officials who spoke on condition of anonymity, the facility would be staffed by members of the U.S. Public Health Service, a uniform branch of the Department of Health and Human Services. So it sounds like they're trying to make this thing happen, this facility over there in Kenya. Anyways, we're going to be following that. 51 minutes ago, Iran and U.S. exchange strikes as Trump threatens Oman. The U.S. shot down its 4 drones we were just talking about mid-Tehran peace negotiations. President Donald Trump accused Tehran of attempting to outwit him amid talks. So we have updates from U.S. Central Command and their posts and everything. So we got that lined up for you guys. All right, so that's the morning that we're looking at real quick. Let's go ahead and do our call to actions, and we'll get right into it. Make sure you guys hit that like button, double tap that screen if you're on the vertical side. Hit that subscribe button too. This is what we do Monday through Friday, and it's free to do so. And of course, we got members only on Saturday morning. Now, speaking of members, please consider becoming a member starting only at $3.99 a month, making sure we're not breaking the bank out there with anybody. But check it out. This is what allows us to be on these airwaves as well as have these lights on. So thank you guys for becoming members and staying members. A little side note here, follow my Instagram at BallValveTV, where I post everything behind the scenes of not only my life, but as well as the show, Millennial Food Time Breaking News. It's a great way to get a hold of me one-on-one. And also, we have a Discord server for all of you legends, and I've got my hair that's like messed up right here, so I'm going to fix that. Let's see if I kind of did. Anyways, and go to the video description down below, and there is the invite link for all of that. And last but not least, all super chats, super stickers, gifted memberships, and membership signups are, of course, all going to be presented live and shouted out onto the show. But if you guys like to skip that YouTube 30% brutal cut that they take from your hard-earned cash, we have these platforms that are scrolling around the screen. At any time, you can donate to those, and I get 100% of the proceeds. And, of course, we'll read out loud whatever comes our way, just like a super chat. I'll read it just like as if you guys were sending in a super chat. So I've got my email up. We're always scanning. All right, good morning to all you legends. I see so many of you guys in here. I very much appreciate all your guys' love and support. We got PJ as well as Gary. We got Easy Frank as well as Rabbit of Chaos. We got Steve Easy. Good morning to you guys, man. Always appreciate you guys. We got Dean as well as Naomi. Thank you all for being here this morning. We got Motobomb Virginia with the Coffee Crew raid this morning. We always appreciate that as well. We got Steve Posey as well. Good to see you, kind sir. Always appreciate you. SSDS. Good morning to you. I see you. We got Jack as well. Good morning to you. We got Chat with Stacks saying Mike Ball was good. Chat was good with you, my man. We got Virginia Chaos as well. We got Barbie. Good morning to you guys, man. Let's see. All right. So we're going to pretty much get right into the madness this morning. We're going to start with our first story of the morning here. And this is what we were discussing a little bit yesterday about the deadly implosion, the tank implosion, not in Southern California in Garden Grove. We're talking about specifically up there in Washington. There was a second ordeal, second tank implosion or whatever, crisis within a very short amount of time, about a week difference of each other.
We're getting an update in Washington right now as there was that deadly explosion. We do have officials speaking right now, so let's listen in.
Let me read it, Stacks. Or Steve Posey. Let me go back while they're pulled that up. Where'd it go? Here it is. David Rush, a former CIA.
46 members of the Washington National Guard.
No, I haven't seen any of this. 303 gold bars worth 40 million, 2 million in cash, 35 luxury watches found in his home. Wow, dude, that's fucking crazy.
On site. That includes 10 civil.
Why can't we hear them anymore? What happened? That's their side. Come on. Okay, let me go ahead and skip ahead a little bit and see.
Which I think was mentioned before, but it bears repeating. Those results show no evidence of airborne contamination. We will, of course, continue to monitor over the coming days. We also have 20 members of the Homeland Response Force who will assist with decontamination. We have 8 members of Fatality Search and Rescue to assist with recovery. We're thankful to those members of the National Guard and to other members of the National Guard who are on site assisting in a variety of ways. The Department of Health is also on site working with the local health department on a public health assessment, and their mass fatality coordinator is assisting the coroner and area hospitals. The State Department of Ecology remains on site.
What up, 5150? Great to see you in the chat, by the way.
They continue to test water quality and working with federal partners and the company to make a plan to remove white liquor from the site.
Steve's got a question.
Why are you gay?
He's just asking a question, though.
You are gay.
We have recovered approximately a dozen carp from the dikes that have died. Elle and I will be meeting with injured workers and the families of those killed to help them understand and access the benefits that they are entitled to. Our state employment security department has activated its rapid response team and has reached out to both the company.
You know what's funny is I really haven't heard Bob Ferguson speak much, pretty much at all. I guess maybe I've never paid that much attention up there in Washington. Maybe I should, of course, but Governor of Washington speaking here.
And the union that represents the workers here, the Association of Western Pipe and Paper Workers, to offer resources. Again, I just want to conclude by saying how much I appreciate the tremendously coordinated efforts that are going on, the bravery of our first responders, and on behalf of the people of the state of Washington, we'll just repeat what I said last night is the state is here and will be here as long as it takes to support the families, support victims, support folks impacted by this.
So far, basically, we've gotten no information really out of this. But the update from what is important for you guys is knowing the update of the numbers. And unfortunately, they have not figured out those 9 missing. Instead, the number is going up on the dead side as well. And the missing is not going down. So that's a bad sign. We got 2 dead now and 9 missing.
For as long as it takes. We're committed to that, as all of our partners are. With that, I want to turn it over to the Congresswoman.
We'll hear what she's got to say real quick, and then we'll move on.
Good afternoon. First responders, emergency workers, and nurses saw unthinkable horrors yesterday, and I am encouraged by how people are checking in on each other. We saw last night at the vigil, and we've seen throughout today. We need to pull together to get the answers that we need here. If you're not in a trades family or a mill family, it can be hard to understand how devastating an industrial accident like this is for a mill town like Longview. Folks here have watched mill after mill close across the state.
You know, I'm going to be honest, something that I'm observing and something that I've really learned on the campaign trail and all that stuff is this, right? Being outside and not having sunglasses on. As you guys know, I've got blue eyes, and I know this sounds gay as fuck, but it's true. When I go outside, it's really hard for me to like be out in the sun without like glasses. Now, of course, everybody tells you in politics, don't wear glasses. You got to be as connected with people. They need to be able to look you in the eyes and stuff like that. But it's going to be hard for guys like me to go outside like that. I'm going to be like this the whole time, speaking to the audience. Can you guys, get it together? That's how it's going to be for me. It's going to be rough. Anyways,
folks here have watched mill after mill close across the state, always wondering if their plant or job is next. And today that fear has reached new heights as people wonder if this accident will be the last straw for a viable mill and the first step towards closures. The mill workers I've talked to want full accountability. They want a comprehensive unbiased investigation into how this could have happened so the failures can be addressed, so we can have safe jobs.
What's up, Brendan
Come
Smith?
home to our families at night and rebuild public trust. This is their lives. This is their land. This is their livelihoods. And the reality is we've watched as financial interests have squeezed all the grease out of the system, and it starts a death spiral. Layoffs, some electeds parachute in and layer on more regulation as a backstop, and companies struggle to keep up and invest in lawyers when we should have investment in infrastructure and mill equipment. And sometimes we see workers left holding the bag, enduring more layoffs and forced into overtime. And we can't be blind to these pressures as we look for answers.
Well, it sounds like you're doing a whole bunch of doing the blame game instead of like just going down to like what the actual problem is, which is par for the course for any type of governmental official. They've got to make, it's kind of never let a tragedy go to waste kind of thing. That's what happens a lot with these situations. Anyways, we're done with that, Congresswoman. I'm over it. We're going to move on into Cuba. We have a Cuban official accuses Rubio of lying about national security threats.
Stop the cap.
Well, meanwhile, while we got Cuba making, accusations and shit, Marco Rubio's over there smacking on a big ass sandwich.
Man, motherfuckers talk all the shit they want. But you see me, I'm sitting up here snacking on this big ass sandwich, not giving a fuck. Kiss my dick, motherfucker.
That's true. That's true. She. All right, let's go ahead and bring this up, and we'll figure out what's happening.
Welcome back in Alive Now. I'm Austin Westfall. A live look at the White House. The time in the nation's capital just past 6:30. The Trump administration is showing no signs of easing up on its pressure campaign against Cuba. But for now, even with an economy on the verge of collapse, the government in Havana isn't backing down either. In an exclusive interview with Fox, Cuba's foreign minister accused the U.S. of threatening the communist country militarily and called Secretary of State Marco Rubio a liar. Fox's Amy Gallo joining us live from Miami. And Amy, you spoke with Cuban Americans in Little Havana. What did they have to say about this?
Austin, everyone I spoke to today told me they were not shocked by this reaction given by the Cuban regime. And they took those accusations made by the foreign minister of dishonesty and turned them right back around on him.
Bruno Rodriguez and all of them are liars. They cannot claim that Marco Rubio is a liar because what he is saying about life in Cuba is the truth. They're the liars who...
So this is the governmental official from Cuba that we're going to listen to? Really? This is the accuser? Shit.
Since 1959. Cuba's foreign minister Bruno Rodriguez sat down exclusively with Fox's Jillian Turner and pushed back when asked about Secretary Rubio's recent comments on the Cuban regime posing a national security threat to the U.S. He repeatedly called Rubio, the son of Cuban immigrants, a liar, claiming he knows, quote, nothing about Cuba.
Okay, so that's the actual accuser, not the lady. The lady was just being interviewed about about it.
Rodriguez also questioned the timing of the indictment against former Cuban leader Raul Castro, Fidel Castro's brother. The 94-year-old is facing 4 murder charges in the U.S. connected to the 1996 shootdown of 2 planes flown by a Miami-based humanitarian group.
This is the official right here.
For 30 years to do this, we will have to ask, what is the ethical value? What is the legal value behind these allegations right now? Or if this is part of the political narrative aimed at manipulating the U.S. public opinion to justify a military aggression against Cuba?
I would really hope not, Steve Posey, because then, first of all, that would add seats to our Congress, right? Which I don't want them representing anything in Congress. Number 2, they would get federal funding, and Cuba is nothing but a liability. We need assets if we're going to be taking on 51st states or something like that. You know what I mean? Like places like, for instance, like Greenland. There's actually resources and strategic reasons to, occupy that kind of area. But you guys know what I'm getting at. I don't think you want Cuba to be the
The Cuban Americans I spoke to called the
voting in
indictment
our
of
Congress.
Raul Castro long overdue.
I don't know why the world and everyone, even the United States, had to wait 30 years to bring these charges. They should have brought it about immediately.
Too many years went by.
Yes, I would agree with that, Gary. Make it a territory, if anything.
Department has issued a warrant for Castro's arrest, but the Cuban government isn't likely to just hand him over. And despite all of this, Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche has said he does expect Raul Castro to end up in the U.S., quote, by his own will or another way. Back to you, Austin.
Amy Gallo for us.
Yeah, the reason why they have those old rides is because that's all they got left. I mean, that was the last thing that they imported, basically.
In Miami, we appreciate it. We continue to track the latest developments out of Cuba. And Hal Kemper is here with me. Hal's a retired Marine Intelligence Officer, National Security Analyst, and the host of the Strap.
And we always appreciate Hal Kemper coming on to the show, giving us 2 cents. I really do appreciate the insights he's got.
Podcast. You were just listening in to Amy's report there, Hal. And Amy said at the end of her report that Blanche expects Castro will show up by his own will or another way. What could that other way mean?
By force?
Well, Austin, another way kind of infers something like what happened with Maduro, where he ended up in New York court. He just it was an interesting way he got there. Was U.S. Special Operations Forces went in and actually took him. Ironically.
Good morning, Tiffany. Happy thirsty Thursday morning to you. Great to see you.
Or not coincidentally,
as well
he was
to you.
surrounded by Cuban security officials, most of whom were killed in that operation. But they got hold of Maduro and the president of Venezuela and got him in there. Now, getting Raul Castro out of Cuba will probably not be that easy. Not the least of which is that it would be done after everybody's had a chance to see what we just. So you can imagine they're going to be hiding him, using deception operations, doing all sorts of stuff to make it very, very difficult to get in there and get him, even if we can figure out where he is at any given point in time. And they'll be moving him around and doing lots of other things. So it'll be very difficult to pin him down as where he is if they were to do that. But we're putting phenomenal pressure on Cuba. And I think the thing to listen to is that they may end up handing him over. Now, if there is a regime change, which happens, dare I say, organically with the Cuban people tossing out this government, in some way, shape, or form, then at the end of that, they could in fact, it would be more likely than not, they would hand over Raul Castro in such a circumstance. But there's a lot of ifs there. And right now, there is no clear path for him to show up in court. But having him indicted in U.S. court does strengthen our hand to some degree and certainly allows some credibility as to why, if we were going to try and get him, why we would do that.
So when a country like Cuba is under the blockade that
Man, I'll tell you, that's their biggest asset there, Steve. Not going to lie. Their food is fucking bomb. You can't lie about that shit. Absolutely. One of my favorite restaurants in Southern California was a Cuban spot. Okay. I used to go there all the time with me and the big homie.
It's been under. And we've been looking at video of the island itself in recent weeks. When a country like Cuba starts talking publicly about preparing for war, Hal, how much of that is real military concern, and how much of it is political messaging for Cuba's own people?
Most of it's really political messaging. They can say they're going to prepare for war and do what? All they can really do is prepare for war if the U.S. invades. And if the U.S. doesn't invade, you can only stand to for so long. Their regular military active duty is less than 50,000. I mean, it's significant by, certainly within the hemisphere. But
well, I would say that's pretty significant for an island, but granted, there are millions of people on Cuba. We're talking originally they were talking about 11 million, but now they're estimating anywhere between like 8.9 to 8.8 to 9.1 million now.
It's not
and some reports are saying that's even lower.
Not huge. Their reserves on top of that are less than 40,000. So combined, you got about 90,000. What they really have a lot of is they got about 1 million in this sort of militia thing, this territorial militia, the Youth Labor Army, as they call it. And a lot of that's for natural disaster.
That soundbite, that's Don DeMarco. That's a famous DJ guy, actually. He's a big DJ dude back in the day.
Work, civil military type stuff, but it does have a role in defending the country should that happen. That's a lot of people mobilized, but they don't have the money, they don't have the resources to mobilize them for
yes, sir. Sick bastard. Good morning.
An appreciable amount of time. So even if they say we're going to prepare for war and mobilize everybody to stand to, that sounds very much like what Venezuela did. And they were all standing to on the beaches or whatever. And our forces went in there and completely bypassed them and got Maduro and brought him out and did something that I don't think were really prepared for. So it's just mostly posturing. It really doesn't mean a lot. They have some, I think they estimate 300 drones that could hit the U.S. But if they hit the U.S. with drones, the response by the U.S. would be absolutely devastating to Cuba. And you can
and that's what I was getting at when we reported on this whole thing about the possibility of them getting drones over there and them having I forget what the exact number was, guys. It was something like 300 or 500 drones or whatever. And yes, it is a, quote unquote, somewhat of a threat, I guess. But here's the thing. What he's going to allude to right here is, dude, they're on an island right there. Okay, we can do anything. That's right there in not only our hemisphere, the world, but like right there. We could do anything we wanted to them. And unfortunately, of course, Cuba wouldn't want that smoke. I can promise you. They know the deal. That's why they've been, look at the struggle that they're in now. It's a lot of it because of the trade embargo that the United States put on them.
Imagine what would happen with airstrikes and everything else.
So I was looking up how far away Cuba is from the U.S. mainland. Cuba's only about 90 miles from Florida. What are the most realistic U.S. homeland security concerns? Let's say this situation does keep escalating. If there was a real homeland security concern, what would it be?
Well, first, as I just mentioned, drones. Second, would probably be looking at cyber attacks, something they would do along those lines, maybe going out there and trying to rip up some underwater cables, fiber optic cables or something.
Right, because there are those fiber optic cables that run along the sea, actually. And I actually believe I remember seeing it kind of in the beginning of this big war with Iran, with the major escalation, is that I heard, now I don't know if it's actually true, but I did hear that Iran went down to the, and basically were snipping certain parts of the cable, of the fiber optic cable for internet. I don't know that to be absolutely true, but I did see that as a report. All right, let's get back to this.
Our communications, our internet backbone here in the U.S., our communications backbone. The third is kind of interesting.
You good out there, Frank?
Had a very active program trying to go after the Cuban-American expatriate
Brother Straight Jacket, good morning.
Community, the Cuban expatriate community, for a long time in Florida and elsewhere around the country. They conduct a lot of covert intelligence operations in the U.S. Obviously, we try to stop them at every chance we can. But it's fair to say there are some covert operatives of Cuba within the U.S., and they could potentially engage them to do some sort of thing like sabotage or attacks or something like that. Although if they did and we tracked it back to Cuba, again, the retaliation by the U.S. would be swift and it would be overwhelming. And so Cuba, they have to say these things politically. I think the regime feels they have to publicly say these things, but the reality is they don't have a lot of military options and they don't have any supporters in the Western Hemisphere. They are truly isolated. China's doing a little bit to help them, some solar panels.
But they're far, far away.
And I just saw they brought in some rice, but that's about it. And Russia can't do a darn.
We got Hardwire as well. Good morning.
Thing to help them, despite the fact they're supposed to be their big allies that are going to back their play.
Why not Russia? Why can't they do anything?
They just don't have the resources. They're tied up with Ukraine. They just don't have any extra resources that they can really do.
Yeah, well, not only that, but geographical locations are also important. That goes for China and Russia. But yes, Russia is definitely knee deep in their own shit right now. So all resources are going to his war, right? We got TVT up there in Canada. Good morning, kind sir. Hopefully you're enjoying the morning as well. Your Thirsty Thursday morning.
They can barely get the oil out of Russia to its customers. They're trying to buy that sanctioned oil around the world. They don't have much of a Navy, blue water Navy capability that could do much. They don't really have an air capability that could project that far. That's way across the Atlantic. They don't have, the only bases they could launch from would be Cuba itself. So they have very limited options in terms of that. And interestingly, if you go back historically speaking, Cuba was kind of the Soviet Union's mercenary army. They sent them to the Middle East, Africa, all over the world. I think at one point they said 300,000 Cuban troops had rotated through Africa on various different adventures, whether...
Carney knows the deal. Good morning there, kind sir. And thank you again for, hanging out with us, man.
Angola or, up in, further north, up in the Sahel region or wherever, they have been using them forever. Of course, those are days gone by, but it does give you an idea of how the Soviet Union used to do it. And Russia has far less resources than the Soviet Union had.
Yeah, no kidding. All right, let's go ahead and get into U.S. DOJ, the Department of Justice, sues UCLA over alleged anti-Semitic and educational environment. What does that mean? Let's go ahead and figure out what's happening. Let's figure out what the story is.
Welcome back into Live Now from Fox. I'm your host, Anna Marsick. Thanks so much for joining us on this Wednesday. A big story that...
Oh, you know what we haven't done yet? Fuck, we've been slacking. We got to get the money part over real quick.
All right, just get the money part done.
Give me money. Money me. Money now. Me a money needing a lot now.
Okay, perfect. Now we're dialed.
Denied.
All right, back to this.
We are following today here at Live Now from Fox. Take a look at this X post on your screen coming from Reuters on Tuesday, saying just in, the U.S. Department of Justice's Civil Rights Division filed a lawsuit against UCLA, alleging the university allowed a hostile educational environment for Jewish and Israeli students. That coming in yesterday. The Justice Department is taking major legal action, filing a sweeping civil rights lawsuit against UCLA over its handling of campus protests. The DOJ alleges the university violated the Title VI of the Civil Rights Act by...
I wonder what that exact thing is. I'm sure she's going to read it, but we got Charlie Rose in the building. Good morning to you.
Acting with deliberate indifference toward severe anti-Semitic harassment and assaults directed at Jewish and Israeli students. This 53-page complaint centers heavily on the April 2024 campus encampments, accusing masked demonstrators of forming human brigades to physically block Jewish students.
I wonder who pushed to have this, where the DOJ is doing it.
From academic buildings.
Of course, when they do these lawsuits and stuff. I wonder who pushed it.
While university leadership adopted a do-nothing de-escalation strategy. This new title.
We got Mr. Al Patterson coming in with the 5 gifted. At first, I was reading it like it was a $5 donation, but then for some reason, I don't know. That's what happens when you're illiterate. Great to see you, Al, and thank you for the 5 gifted memberships. That goes a long way. My man making it rain up in this beach. Very much appreciate you, kind sir. Not only helps me, but it helps 5 others in the IWF, my man. So thank you for that.
Title VI lawsuit targets the student educational environment, coming just months after the DOJ sued UCLA under Title VII for creating a hostile work environment for its faculty. So joining us today to break all of this down is Mark Kasowitz, a civil rights litigator. Thanks so much for joining us here on Live Now from Fox.
Brown Chicken,
Thanks,
good
Anna.
morning.
Pleasure to be here.
Of course. So in February of this year, the DOJ sued UCLA under Title VII, like I mentioned, for creating that hostile work environment for faculty.
Oh, shit.
On Tuesday,
Look at that.
they sued under Title VI for a hostile educational environment for students. As a litigator, why do you think the DOJ split these into 2 separate lawsuits instead of one massive civil rights filing? And how does that dual track strategy complicate UCLA's legal defense?
Well, look, Title VI is a section of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which relates specifically to the way that students are treated on campus, whether or not by
all students or just specific students?
By national origin or by race or religion.
So it sounds like all
students are discriminated against at the university. And so it's a statute that is specifically designed to deal with precisely this situation. Apart from any of the other provisions of the Civil Rights Act. We had, I and my law firm brought Title VI actions after October 7th and after these encampments at various universities against Harvard, NYU, Columbia, Barnard, and the University of Pennsylvania for pretty much the same kind of deliberate indifference by the universities to the rampant anti-Semitism and anti-Semitic harassment that was occurring on their campuses. So the Justice Department, Harmeet Dillon and her team are doing exactly the right thing by bringing a Title VI action.
A major aggressive component of Tuesday's lawsuit is the DOJ seeking to recover federal taxpayer funds, arguing UCLA breached its funding contracts.
What the hell? Did you guys just see that guy fall down? Hold on, I gotta watch that guy fall down again. That was crazy. What's going on here? Let's focus on that for a sec.
A major aggressive component of Tuesday's lawsuit is the DOJ seeking to recover federal tax.
This guy right here, with the stick or whatever, and the gray cloth with the red.
Funds, arguing UCLA breached its funding contracts.
What the fuck was that all about? Even the chick that's doing the reporting right now, she's like watching it on her side, and she's like dumbfounded, and she's trying to figure out how to get through this report with that shit.
Taxpayer funds, arguing UCLA breached.
Oh, real quick, we got brother Virginia Chaos coming in hot with the Cash App, by the way, sending over his 5 spot, saying showing support, challenge everyone else to as well. Wow. I very much appreciate the 5 spot, my man. Definitely adds up very quickly on the Cash App, especially where I get to keep 100% of the proceeds,
Breached its funding contracts by falsely certifying those Title VI compliance. So how realistic is that a massive public university like UCLA will actually have to pay back those federal grants?
I think it's a significant it's a very significant risk. It's great leverage for the Department of Justice and for this administration because it can be used to teach a real lesson to universities that are standing by indifferently while there's rampant anti-Semitism on their campuses. You know, Anna, if you read through this complaint, it's almost sickening to read the facts relating to what happened in the aftermath of October 7th, 2023, and the encampments and the riots that were conducted at UCLA in April and May. And
okay, what does that have to do with today?
Even after that, in 2024, Jewish students and other Jews on the UCLA campus, according to the allegations of this complaint, which are true, Jews were singled out for the worst kind of discrimination, physical attacks, and physical threats. I mean, there were checkpoints set up on the UCLA campus where Jewish students were not permitted to pass, Jewish or Israeli students were not permitted to pass to go to their classes, to go to assemblies, to do the normal kinds of things that students on a college campus expect to be able to do and should be entitled to do. And so the bottom line here is, while all of this was happening with this vicious anti-Semitic encampment, the university's administration was standing by and doing nothing, no matter what the university says now. And I saw a statement from one of the university representatives. The reality is that when this was happening and afterwards, the university stood by and did nothing. So, you know, what happened here, Anna, is a normal.
Yeah, that sounds a little biased, but who knows? Okay, who knows? I'm done with him though. We're moving on. We got to move on. We got more stories to get through. Police and SWAT shut down social club for illegal gambling. This looks like it happened yesterday. Authorities in West Houston, Texas, executed a search warrant at Lucky J Social Club over illegal gambling allegations. Approximately 80 to 90 people were in the club when the SWAT team entered the business. Police stated 4 to 5 people were taken into custody. It's unclear what the people taken into custody are being currently charged with. And it says, according to Houston police, over the past several months, authorities received complaints from people in the area that were there was illegal gambling and other activity going on at the business. Well, what other activity? Anyways, let's go ahead and bring that up and let's go ahead and discuss this. Here we go.
We are following some breaking news out of the Houston area. This is a live look at the scene there. This is in Houston, Texas. Houston police is saying they are investigating at a scene of an illegal gambling investigation. Officials there in the area of Richmond Avenue and Westerland Drive at that Lucky J. And we have this from Houston police on Twitter saying Vice, Midwest, and SWAT just served a search warrant on the 9300 block of Richmond. Several arrests made, include illegal gambling investigation underway. And Houston.
What's up, brother GEG? Good morning to you over there from the West Coast.
Houston police did just speak to our partners there at Fox 26 on the scene. This is their update just from a few minutes ago on this illegal gambling investigation underway right now.
All right, everybody's ready? All right. My name's Larry Krausen. I'm a lieutenant with the Houston Police Department. Over the past several months, we received complaints from people who lived in the area of 9300 Richmond that there was illegal gambling and other activity going on at the business here behind me. They contacted our Midwest Differential Response Team officers. These officers deal with quality of life issues such as illegal gambling, convenience stores operating without permits, those type of things. They contacted our Vice Division. Our Vice Division sent undercover investigators into this club over several times and determined that there was illegal gambling going on in this club. They went to a judge, got a search and arrest warrant for this location. Due to the nature of the club, they usually lock the doors. They have armed security. We had our SWAT team serve the warrant. Our SWAT team went in and served the.
Yes, by the way, real quick, I haven't hounded you guys on this today. Make sure you guys get the likes up. Just like Naomi says, make sure you hit that like button, double tap that screen if you're on the vertical side. Listen, you guys don't have to like all the craziness that's happening around the world or here in the United States, but you guys can like it for me and what we do here on Insane Wheels. So thank you for that. All right, here we go.
warrant tonight for approximately 80 to 90
Thank you
people
for
in the
that.
club when we served the search warrant. The search warrant was served successfully with no incident or no injury to anyone. We took 4 to 5 people in custody. Right now, our vice officers are inside conducting a follow-up investigation to seize any gambling paraphernalia or any money connected to gambling. So right now, a successful operation by our differential response team officers and our vice division.
What kind of machines, instruments?
It's a very, very quick update, by the way. It's not like he's going to be out here talking for long.
Wasn't machines. It was gaming tables, card games, that kind of stuff.
Okay, so there were table games, like not something that you have a machine doing, right? Okay.
I don't know. The vice officers are working through that right now. I believe it was employees of the business that were actually conducting the gambling business. Not to my knowledge. I don't know that for sure, though.
Tell us anything about this business. Is it a nightclub?
It appears to be a social club that has gambling in there. There's a lot of gambling tables in there. They do serve food. It looks like on the back there's a banquet hall there. It looks like maybe they rent that out separately.
Yeah, you definitely should post it in the Discord, Tiffany.
From the gaming portion.
The gambling section is separate. It's not obvious when someone walks in.
No, when you walk in here, it's immediately a gambling section. The banquet hall is kind of around the corner in the back. I believe there's another entrance off the side street back there.
All right. That's basically all we're going to get out of this for right now. All right. Now we're going to, this just coming out early this morning. So let's go ahead and get into it. Let me double check that. Yeah. So it's early this morning that this came out. And then we have the latest update on Iran and U.S. exchange strikes as Trump threatens Oman. And that just coming out just minutes ago, right before we started the live stream, essentially. So, all right, let's go ahead and get into this first early morning report, and then we'll move on. Here we go.
We're continuing to track the latest with the ongoing developments over into the Middle East. Do you want to bring this up?
And we're not even going to play this whole thing. We just want to get a good idea of early morning activities, and then we'll move on into the updates
here from the Associated Press that we got early on this morning. This here says Kuwait says it faced a missile and drone attack.
This is coming out of the Associated Press, AP. So Kuwait says it faced a missile and drone attack as the shaky ceasefire in Iran war was again challenged.
As the shaky ceasefire in the Iran war was again challenged, no one immediately claimed responsibility.
What's up, Tootie? Good morning to you, by the way. Hopefully you're enjoying your thirsty Thursday morning. I definitely know that we are.
For the attack, which came after the U.S. said it carried out strikes targeting Iran during the ceasefire. And just right before the break, we were listening to President Trump and his cabinet meet on issues dealing with Iran. And what we want to do next is bring in our expert here, Dr. Asaf Ramarowski, with the Scholars for Peace in the Middle East, frequently on this program. Dr. Asaf, thank you so much for coming on as always.
Why do we hear beach in the background? That's what I heard. But Bowen over here, the reporter from Live Now, he's like, oh shit, let me turn that off.
Through a little bit here, what your thoughts were on this cabinet meeting, as we just heard just moments ago here, that President Trump says that he is dealing with more reasonable people there in Iran. What are your thoughts about that?
Good morning, and thank you as always. I would be more cautiously optimistic as far as, talking with more reasonable people. To my mind, as you and I have discussed in the past, I think we're dealing with, we're dealing with the same group of individuals. I mean, the Islamist regime is still intact. The clerics are still there. Mushtaba, who is a supreme leader, again, who has been sending out messages via couriers and other kind of mediums. Has been calling for, again, reiterating the anti-Americanism, anti-Westernism messages. Despite when the deal was, the proposal that was put forth was his kind of reaction as far as pushing America out. So I really don't see an ideological change as far as the objectives. I think that there are. There are tactical and there are strategic needs that the regime is looking for or trying to employ. The IRGC it has its own necessities and whatnot. But that's my concern. So long.
And good morning to you as well, Dragon Classy. Hopefully you're enjoying the morning.
As the regime and the Islam and the IRGC and the clerics are still intact, then a lot of this is not going to change it. And as we've seen, they've been willing to sacrifice their own people at the expense.
Okay, we already know all that, Dr. Saf. I do really appreciate your insights. Honestly, I do. I actually really like him as an analysis. But let's see if we get any governmental posts here other than the AP showing that Kuwait says it faced a missile and drone attack as the shaky ceasefire in Iran war was again challenged. That's the important part of what we're looking at this morning, early this morning. So hold on, let me keep on seeing if there's anything. No, there is not. So we're going to move on. And our latest update, I'm going to hold off on that because that just came out theoretically, under an hour ago. We still have these other two reports that we need to get into real quick. And this first report that we're about to get into is U.S. will need years to replenish weapons used in Iran. Now, I'm going to say specifically in our Patriot missiles, stuff like that is not something you can just build in a conveyor belt like that. First of all, it's very, very expensive to make. Second of all, it takes a long time to make them. And because it's expensive and it takes a long time, these things are planned out way ahead of time. Well, what I mean by that is we weren't supposed to get another shipment of Patriot missiles made, or, we wouldn't be making them until something like 2030. And it's like, well, shit, we just used half of our stock, and we used a huge amount of those Patriot missiles as well when Iran was shooting at Israel during that 12-day war between them. And so a huge amount of our stockpile has been used. Anyways, that is something that people are going to be discussing, of course, within these different reports and stuff. So here we go.
Taking us out to a social media post courtesy of the Center for Strategic and International Studies. It says this: depleted U.S. missile inventories have, quote, created a window of vulnerability for a potential Western Pacific conflict. The time needed to rebuild those inventories has thus become a major concern. This specifically is talking about a report that was released earlier this week saying that U.S. military contractors are going to need years to replenish stockpiles of 3 key weapon systems that have been used heavily in the Iran war. It's according to a report from the CIS. It also adds to the concerns that the American forces would have limited firepower in any future conflict with China. Joining us next to talk about the findings of this report is Mark Kansian. He's a senior advisor with the Defense and Security Department at the Center for Strategic and International Studies. He's also a co-author of this specific study. Mark, good morning, and thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me on the program.
Of course. Let's just start with an overview for our...
So this is the author of the man that... I think that's what she just said. Let me hear that again.
International Studies. He's also a co-author of this specific study.
Okay, so he's a co-author of this particular study. Interesting.
Mark, good morning, and thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me on the program.
Of course. Let's just start with an overview for our viewers if they haven't been able to see or read the report just yet. When we say weapon systems, talk to us about specifically what is being mentioned and how they are used during times of war.
Right. We looked at 7 key munitions. They're all missiles that are used heavily in the war against Iran, but would also be used heavily in a conflict in the Western Pacific against China. These are several of them are ground attack munitions, and some of them are air and missile defense munitions. And on ground attack, people have probably heard about Tomahawk, and on missile defense, people have probably heard about Patriot. Those are 2 of the 7 that we looked at.
So as you mentioned, they're just 2 of 7 that you looked at. So we're talking about a quite vast and a big array of weapon systems that are used by the U.S. military during these wars. And the study specifically highlighted that it would take years to replenish the ones that have already been used. How many years exactly? And does it differ depending on which weapon system we're looking at?
It does. Some of them will be replaced relatively quickly within about a year, but some of them will take 4 or 5 years. And that's to get to where we were before the war began. That was a level that many commentators and war planners believed was too low itself. There's been a recognition that a conflict in the Western Pacific, and in fact, any major conflict will use munitions at a very high rate. So we've been the U.S. has been trying to build up those inventories to hedge against a conflict in the Western Pacific.
And we'll talk a little bit more about that potential conflict in the Western Pacific. First, though, a live look at the White House in Washington, D.C., because the analysis also factored in the request from the Trump administration of $1.5 trillion for the defense budget for 2027. Mark, what kind of impact would that amount of money have on U.S. defense?
Well, for these 7 munitions, it would have a significant impact. This is a problem the United States has recognized for a number of years. The Biden administration started putting money.
Steve, I've always thought of shit like that. Like, why would you, even if you did know all this shit, why would you even say it? You know, I've always said that too, you know, but hey, it is, that's media for you.
Against missiles and munitions. The Trump administration accelerated that. The reconciliation bill, the one big beautiful bill, had a lot of money for munitions, something close to $50 billion when you count it all up. And then the FY27 budget, which they've sent to the Hill, which is this $1.5 trillion budget, has large amounts for munitions. The problem is that these take a long time to be produced and to arrive in the field. So in the short term, there's this what we call window of vulnerability until these accelerated production funding and schedules can be produced.
You're talking about this window of vulnerability. And again, the report does say that right now the U.S. is appropriately equipped to deal with whatever situation is happening with Iran. The focus, though, turns now to China. What are the specific concerns with China at the moment, especially because we just saw President Trump visit China to meet with Chinese President Xi Jinping?
We did. And we all hope that there will be no conflict, and we're not predicting that there would be a conflict. We've done a large number of war games about what a conflict might entail, but we all have to recognize that conflict is possible given the Chinese military buildup and its very aggressive national.
Well, that's what they're actually worried about, is if there's Chinese aggression, are we going to be able to handle that with just, I mean, like you just heard from Mark say, you know, some of these munitions are going to take only about a year, quote unquote. And then some of these munitions are going to take 4 to 5 years to get to the point where we were back before this war was started by Israel, by the way. Anyways, let's go ahead and move on. And we got something interesting here. U.S. to create a Ebola facility for infected Americans. Now, what I thought was interesting about this is meant for infected Americans, but it says the U.S. is in discussions with Kenya about opening a facility to quarantine American citizens exposed to the Ebola outbreak centered in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. So what they're going to specifically do is set up something over there in Kenya for people that are supposed to be coming back here to the United States. Obviously, they're American citizens. Anybody that, you know, is infected American-wise that needs to go, you know, back home here, they would stop over at Kenya. It looks like that's the plans that they're doing. Anyways, I believe this was discussed yesterday during Trump's cabinet meeting. So let's go ahead and bring this up.
Obligation. You know, we're involved in foreign policy, but even our foreign policy, the number one priority of our foreign policy is to protect the American people. We cannot and will not allow any cases of Ebola to enter the United States. And so the State Department and other agencies represented here, the Centers for Disease Control, HHS, others are working very, very hard to contain this crisis to the countries where it's currently located, particularly the Democratic Republic of the Congo. And so we've surged assistance to make sure that is being contained there. And obviously, multiple agencies involved here are also very involved in tracking people just to make sure that nobody comes into this country that has Ebola and creates a problem for us.
Yes, by the way, let's get the likes up, man. I very much appreciate you guys and your engagement. Double tap that screen. Very much appreciate it.
And we feel like we've got good efforts in place to do that, and Americans should feel assured that the president and his administration is doing everything we can to protect them on that front. My last point, said I was all over the place. One of the places I stopped in like that.
And those were just some of the opening comments from Secretary Rubio that I wanted to play out for here. I want to highlight something specifically that he was discussing, and that is this Ebola outbreak that we have been following closely for several weeks now. The Department of State posting this to social media, Secretary Rubio on Ebola, saying we've got good efforts in place and Americans should feel assured that the president and his administration are doing everything we can do to protect them. It comes as we have seen Uganda just yesterday ordering the closure of its border with the Congo, where suspected cases of a rare type of Ebola are surging at this time. And also as cases have been confirmed at home after Ugandan health workers were exposed to the disease from Congolese patients. Back here in the U.S., President Trump's administration watching this outbreak closely. The Associated Press saying that Trump's administration is planning to send Americans who are exposed to Ebola while abroad to a new facility in Kenya instead of flying them to the United States. That's according to an official with the administration. Putting up here just some of the footage that we have, as we have seen a lot of these images come into the newsroom, showcase.
Now, I wonder what the actual numbers are on the Ebola the Ebola numbers specific that's going on with Uganda and Congo right now, because those numbers were jumping up in the hundreds of numbers per day there for a second. I mean, it went from like, yeah, we've got about, 90 people that are infected. Then it went to the next day, like 150. Then the next day went to like 300 or something like that, 350, 380, whatever. And then those are people dying from it. And then not only the people that they're monitoring and dealing with.
Seeing
It's
a lot
just,
of these
oh my
patients
God.
as they are being treated there, and hopefully Ebola is contained, but it continues to spread and we are seeing more cases. Now, the quarantine and treatment center being set up by the Departments of Defense, State, and Health and Human Services will be designed for Ebola patients who need to get out of the DRC and receive care quickly, according to the official. Now, the person said the plan would help patients avoid an hours-long.
So, I'm not sure how it's actually like how it's caught. Well, here's the thing. What I do know is that it's not an airborne thing. Okay. Ebola is not an airborne thing. What it is you get it from, bodily fluids, puke, your blood, saliva, all of that. That's a good way to transfer that to somebody, as well as sex. So, anyways.
Medical evacuation to the U.S. It was unclear where in Kenya the new facility will be built or whether the Kenyan government has signed off on the plan. The official said the facility will be able to care for the full spectrum of Ebola, a rare but severe disease that is often fatal in people. But the official said people may be transported elsewhere for more advanced care as appropriate. Kenya's health minister confirmed that officials were there talking with the U.S. about preparedness and response mechanisms for Ebola, but did not address whether the country would establish a treatment facility for Americans. Speaking of, I want to bring us out to a social media post courtesy of Reuters, who is also following this story closely. Says this, that Nairobi residents raised concerns over a U.S. plan to open an Ebola quarantine facility in Kenya exclusively for American citizens, saying it should also serve Kenyans. U.S. officials confirmed Kenya had not yet approved that plan. But the news is coming out, and we're waiting to see when that facility would be established. Now, for decades, medical experts have suggested moving patients suffering from Ebola and similar illnesses as little as possible in case their condition worsens. That's according to a public health college dean that the Associated Press spoke to. But that dean also added that the quality of care must be equivalent to what someone would receive in American facilities, speaking specifically on the proposed facility in Kenya.
Oh, man. So that's what is happening currently regarding the Ebola outbreak. We've been following that there for probably about 2 weeks now. Anyways, let's go and get into this next story here. Iran and U.S. exchange strikes as Trump threatens Oman. This coming out just minutes before we started the live stream, by the way. So this is our latest news regarding this. And we have an update from U.S. Central Command as well on here. So let's go ahead and hear it.
President Trump said that no country would be allowed to control the Strait of Hormuz, warning that U.S. forces are prepared to respond if any side attempts to dominate the critical international waterway. Of course, all of this coming here after details about the strikes emerged after President Trump, at a cabinet meeting earlier yesterday, expressed confidence that his administration was making headway on settling the war. The president is looking for a settlement that will reopen the Strait of Hormuz and provide him with a credible argument that Iran's nuclear capability has been diminished enough to declare victory. A lot to discuss here, so I want to bring in Director of the Foundation for Defense of Democracies, Jonathan Schanzer, joining us here on Live Now from Fox. Thank you so much for taking the time, Jonathan. As always, we appreciate you being here with us this morning.
My pleasure.
I want to start with that cabinet meeting we saw just yesterday with President Trump. It was supposed to be held at Camp David, was then moved to the White House. What did we really gain from?
Man, that's crazy how toxic those bodily fluids become once you do have Ebola. Then that's crazy. I didn't know that could even be, from surfaces where bodily fluids were. Wow.
From that, was there anything that we saw happen significantly during that cabinet meeting?
Well, I have to say, I kind of like the atmospherics of it, for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's showing that the president's thinking seriously about his next moves and he's engaging with his top advisors. I think that's important. I think a lot of people were maybe working under the assumption that, he was tackling some of this stuff unilaterally. I think it's good to see the Mind Hive come together. I think that when the president talks about the strategy that the Iranians have, and he calls them out on it, and he actually tells them flat out that he's not concerned about the midterms as a restraint on his war-making capabilities if he has to use those, I think that's important. I think letting them know that they are in for a long haul as it relates to the economic campaign that we're waging against the enemy, I think that's also important. So, I mean, I think overall there was some good messaging that came out of that cabinet meeting yesterday. Obviously, we don't know all the things that were discussed. One can only hope that there are some covert things and maybe even some military surprises that the president can bring to bear if we continue to see the kind of escalation that we saw last night in the skies over Kuwait.
And I wanted to, of course, ask you about this news we learned from late last night, putting up this post once again from U.S. Central Command. What do we know so far about these reported Iranian drone movements near the Strait of Hormuz? And why did President Trump decide to authorize these self-defense strikes at this moment?
Well, if they're self-defense, then I think we can understand exactly why we conducted them. In other words, if there was a direct threat to us or perhaps to one of our allies, it certainly looks like there was probably a threat to the base that we maintain in Kuwait. But in general, it's still a very unsafe atmosphere. I think what we're watching right now is an effort by the United States to maintain a pretty close eye on everything that's going on from the skies above. Right. So in other words, the intelligence that we're picking up through satellites and maybe signals intelligence, we're pulling together a picture in real time and countering threats in real time. What that's actually doing is it's helping to keep a lid on escalation. If these attacks actually got through, well, then you'd start to see a lot more bombing when you begin to preempt the enemy and defang them in ways that make all of their moves futile, which is what I think it looks like right now. I think this is really dominance on our part. I do think that there is a question of what are we doing to further defang the regime? Is it just waiting them out economically? Are there other military strikes that we're considering? These are things that I don't know how to answer just yet. But I do like the idea that, we're preempting them right now. We're preventing them from causing damage. We're messaging to them about how their strategy is going to fail. And he's also, the president's messaging that he's not going to be deterred. I think all of this is positive. Again, though, a lot of this really does depend on Donald Trump's patience, Donald Trump's ability to carry out a plan once he's got one locked in. And I don't know, maybe there was one that was arrived at last night.
Well, and again, a key part of this is President Trump looking for a settlement that will reopen the Strait of Hormuz. Jonathan, just for our viewers that are continuing to follow this here with us, really, what are those key points that is making that so difficult to reach?
Well, I mean, it's basically we have just two fun
nuclear program. That's basically that. And then if Iran, it's pretty simple for them to enforce the Strait of Hormuz to be shut down because you don't even have to. It's these ship owners, the insurance brokers, all the insurance that covers all the cargo. All they have to do is make the threat that they're going to actually harm these vessels for them to shut it down. That's how this works. They're going to be like, the ship owners are like, you are not risking it. You're not going to go through this shit. So it's easier for them to enforce them shutting it down than to reopen it peacefully. Being that there could be mines that are laying at the bottom of the sea, right? Well, not sea, but you know what I mean, the strait. So it's easier for them to do that. And now that they have it shut down and they do have basically leverage on that standpoint on the global economy, excuse me, by the way. So it's interesting that we have the military that can absolutely demolish Iran, but this is now a economic warfare on the global front. So it's rough for damn sure.
Fundamentally different negotiating positions here from the two primary parties. The United States wants the Islamic Republic to stop engaging in malign activity. Malign activity in this case means building out its nuclear program, building out its ballistic missiles, supporting terrorist proxies around the region, and cracking down on the 90 million Iranian people who deserve freedom. When we start to ask for those things, those are fundamentally at odds with what the Islamic Republic wants. They want to continue to build those nukes. They want to be a regional power that threatens the rest of the region. And they want the ballistic missiles and the proxies to be able to do that. And they don't want to have to answer to those 90 million people that are demanding their freedom. This is actually, I think, the reason why those people are probably our most important weapon that we have yet to truly mobilize. And again, when we talk about the covert means that are available to us, I think those are really important right now. And there's a reason why we're not hearing about them, because they're covert, right? But what we really want is we want weapons getting in. You want secure communications getting in. You want to give the Iranian people the tools that they need in order to bring down this regime. I don't know where we are with that, but I do know that the military strikes have eroded the regime's capability to do harm to us and to our allies. I think that's important. And now we've got this economic campaign where we've got our own blockade on the Strait of Hormuz. That's depriving the regime of money.
We don't have a blockade on the Strait of Hormuz. I don't like when analysts say that. I don't know why we have we don't have a blockade on the Strait of Hormuz. We have a blockade of their ports. Any Iranian port is blockaded. Okay. The strait itself, no, they're not blockading that specific blockade. They're not going to do that. It's already blockaded. But anyways, I don't know why some of these analysis come on here and say that. Anyways, listen, I can't thank each and every single one of you guys enough. That wraps up the morning for us. Listen, we'll be back tomorrow morning for more of the world's madness. We're also going to be raiding our buddy JS Urban Adventure. He's live right now. Make sure you guys stick around for the raid and let him know we're coming through with the Mike Ball raid. Listen, we'll be back tomorrow morning, like I said. And until then, God bless everyone. We'll see you guys very soon. And be safe out there. Much love.
From the depths of darkness, a voice emerges, a host with a fire.